Alright guys, here got a 6L80E transmission off of I think it's like a 15 or 16 1500 Chevrolet pickup truck. This has a Gen 5 5.3, and as you can see, all that metal that's inside the transmission pan, that's very common in this unit. And the issue is the torque converter. That's a JMBX, it's a B85 JMBX, and the problem why they fail, here's the 1 through 4 frictions, they're burnt. These are the 4, 5, 6 frictions, they're burned up as well. The bell housing is score up, this has to be machined. Whatever you take off of here, you got to take it off of here, you know, have to be equally machined. And this is the pump cover or the stator. And this is all right. I mean, you can just take off a little bit of here, and that's it. I mean, you take it to a machine shop, and there's one here locally that does this, or you can just get one that's already been resurfaced, you know, the whole complete assembly. But the problem is that the torque converter clutch engages in second gear, so it engages through all the gears. So you take off in first, engages in second, and it's slipping. It's always slipping. It never completely engages down to zero. So it goes, it engages in second, it drops down, pulse width modulated, around 20 RPM slippage. Normal in DOD, it's 40 RPM slippage, and it ramps out on every gear, and then it re-engages. It's slipping all the time, so this torque converter never engages. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you what I do to these units on HP tuners. I actually remove torque converter clutch engagement on the 1 through 4 and only allow it to apply on the 4, 5, 6. So that's a JMBS converter, and yes, we do a lot of these units. And as you can see here, there's another JMBX, another 6L80. Don't bother about this 4R100. There's another JMBX. There's another JMBX. Another JMBX. So I got 1, 2, 3. I got 5 JMBXs here that I've worked on this week. And yeah, this is a very common issue. That's a very common problem. So we're gonna go to a screen recorder on my laptop, and I'm gonna show you what I do on HP tuners to correct this issue. So I've been doing this for a long time with HP tuners on these units, and I mean, you extend the life of the torque converter. I get rid of DOD and turn off DOD, turn off 1 through 4 engagement on the torque converter, and only apply it in 4, 5, 6, and I give it a little bit more pressure and a little bit more torque from 1 through 4 because you no longer have a torque converter clutch engagement. I'll show you that on HP tuners. But this is what happens, and this is what we do to all these units. Alright guys, before we continue, before we go into the HP tuners, I just want to make sure that you know that all my units, they take these two kits. The 6L80 CS-TCC, or clutch select torque converter clutch. It comes with both clutch select valves and the torque converter clutch valve. That goes in it. And the 6L80 shift kit, which comes with the pressure regulator valve and the actuator feet limit valve. The actuator feet limit goes on here. And it comes with the diaphragms and the seals for the TECM to repair the TECM. It comes with that, and let's empty this box. So it has 2 clutch select valves. These valves go here, in this location, and the torque converter clutch valve goes in this location. And I just cleaned it. I just cleaned this valve body so I can start working on it. But if you can see the clutch select valve is stuck open. If you can see there, what this does, what this causes, it causes delayed engagement. And the reason why, because the clutch select, when it's open, The clutch select valve, it's on the fluid is in the front of the clutch pack, so it has pressure in the front of the piston, and it doesn't allow the piston to apply and hold the clutches. As you saw, the 1 through 4 frictions were burnt, and they're burned because of all that metal sticking this valve, and the piston not applying, not pushing against the 1 through 4 frictions and clamping them. The same thing happens with the 456. That this is open, and you have the balance pistons that goes on the front of the 456 apply piston, and the balance piston is actually the compensator feed for that. So this uses to disapply the frictions. It sends fluid to the compensator feed circuit, and it helps release the piston from the clutch pack. It comes with the clutch select valve springs, but word of caution, this happened to me. I started using it on the Gen 5s. I call it Gen 5s because of the engine. And the Gen 5, it's an 8 check ball valve body. This one takes 8. It takes one right here. And the earlier models doesn't take, it only takes 7 check balls. And the problem here is that for some reason, these are not calibrated good for the Gen 5s. And I was having a 2.3 kind of like a double bump little bind upshift on the 2.3, and so I just don't install these no more. On the Gen 5s, only on the Gen 4s I install the this springs on the clutch select valves, which are these two right here. Now let's talk a little bit about this valve here. Let's get the paperwork out of the box, and I'm doing it with one hand because I'm holding my phone here, and I'm just gonna show you what this valve does. Supposedly it helps the pressure on DOD. We see here you discard that new TCC regulator valve. Let's see where. Okay, right here it says the new Transgo TCC regulator valve is a major step forward in controlling TCC operation. It refines the computer's ability to control TCC regulation more accurately, which results in better slip control. And what we're going to do, we're going to improve the slip control by putting it to 0 instead of the 20 and the 40 and the 60 that it commands with DOD on, the AC on, and in between the shifts. The improvements are more noticeable right at the point where the vehicle's computer typically struggles to hold converter slip speed steady during cylinder deactivation at low speeds. That's what burns the converter. Not burns it, it just shuts the lining off the torque converter, and it causes the damage. The new TCC regulator valve system has proven to be a real winner, and it does. But with it alone, I still have sometimes within a year, converter lining fall off. And I use precision torque converters, but it doesn't matter the brand. I mean, you can use Recon, you can use CRC, you can use TCR, you can use any brand converter that's out there. And the problem is, they're still trying to fix the problem. There's a problem with the front cover as well, that the metal is too thin and the wells kind of warp it, and that's for another video. But anyways, all my units take this, besides the obvious, of course, the clutches, the pistons, the steels, the overhaul kit, and everything that goes to it. The pump repair, as you can see, I have it right here. It's ready for me to put it on the bench, finish the valve body, start working on the valve body. On the other bench over there, I have the Tecum. So, that I still got to work on. But I just want to show you guys this is mandatory for me. I don't care who this transmission is or who the 6 ladies that I'm working on are for. This has to go in. I know that another builders, they do a lot of runarounds and stuff like that, but I want my transmissions repaired. I don't want them to come back. So to repair it 100% successfully, I use this kit with HP tuners. Now we can go to HP tuners, and I'm going to show you what I do to it. Okay, so I'm right here at the truck. Actually, it's GMC Sierra, and it's a 2015 Sierra 1500 SLE. And I got to do the wheels and tire size on it because he's got 20 some inch wheels. Uh, so right now I'm reading the ECM, and we're gonna read the TCM. We're gonna disable cylinder deactivation mode or displacement on demand, and we're gonna do our torque converter clutch here. Tune for it. Got my MTVI2 hooked up to it. GMC Sierra, and it's a very common issue with these units. You know what's going on with these things. And once I go into the file, once I save the file and go into it, I'm gonna turn on my screen recorder and start recording from there. Okay, guys, so here we are in HP Tuners, and I already have the file open, the stock file and the compare file, which is on the same vehicle. And what we're gonna what I'm gonna show you here today is the changes that I've made. Now, I did notice I already gave the truck to the customer, so they picked it up. I mean, the truck is long gone. Otherwise, I would have done it, live, doing it. But what I didn't notice is that the truck had already had a tune in it. It had an aftermarket exhaust, and the tires, the wheels and tire size were not changed. So there's some changes here that I did that I normally do that I had to well, let me show you. Okay, on the engine side is just disable DOD. So that's what I did here. I did not do anything to power enrichment or anything like that. Nothing to torque management. I mean, the truck was running pretty good. Now let's go to transmission. And here is what I changed. So you can see here all that's highlighted green. These are all the changes that I made. And let's open up the apply ramp. So I always add a little bit of pounds to it on the working area, like from zero on up. Let's look at the compare file. Let's show the differences. This is where I made. I added 5 pounds from 0 RPM error all the way to a 400 RPM error. It says -5, but I actually added 5 pounds to 5 pounds of pressure. If you can see here, 514, and the original. See, I got it. The reason he says negative is because I have the tune file that's on the truck on the compare file right here. And I'm using the stock file on the left, the tune that I already made on the middle, and this is the compare. So it's going to show -5 right here, which is actually +5 if I were to switch files here. If I would close the files, open the file that I have tuned, and then put my compare file as the stock file, it will read differently. As a matter of fact, let me just do that. Well, I mean, it's the same thing. Okay, so here, right here, the TCC desired slip. Let's open it up in first gear. I have it set to 0, but this is the stock file right here. As you can see, I mean, this is the engine torque foot-pounds, 184.39. It commands 0, but you're cruising somewhere around this area right here. And you're cruising around probably 1600 to 1800 RPM, and it always shows 20 RPM slippage. But here we are in first gear. Let's go to a higher gear. Let's go to fourth gear. Let's look at the stock file, and you can see almost the same. It never goes below 10 RPM slippage, and this is just a desired slip with the AC off, air conditioner off. With the AC on, let's look at the stock file. We see with the AC on, the minimum slip is 3 RPM. Now let's look at DOD. So on DOD right here, I put disable. As you can see, Uh, well, on the stock file is enable. I put disable. Here's enable. The the tune, I set it to disable. Let's look at the stock file. We can see with DOD on, it commands 40 RPM slippage. Let's go to fifth gear with DOD on, 40 RPM slippage, 1600 RPM, 25 at 3000 RPM. It's at 20. So this torque converter always slip. Now here's slip DOD off and slip DOD on. Let's look at the stock file. We got 35 and we got 45. So slip DOD off. So without DOD, even though we look at the AC slip over here, so DOD slippage is 35. It commands 35 RPM. That's why you never see the torque converter clutch ramp go down to zero or below 20, as you can see on the other tables here. Well, here is with the DOD on, but with the AC off, I mean, you can see that it doesn't go below 20. So you're cruising down the highway at 45, 50 miles an hour. You're always right here. And the torque converter never, ever, ever drops down to 0 RPM uh, to eliminate the slip. And here, the vehicle speed sensor max, when I did the tire size, when I reset the tire size, the wheel and tire size, it changed this. I did not change that. That's why it looks, it looks green like that. Well, let's see. Let's go to apply and release. So on the apply and release on stock, this is where it applies. In first gear at 10 miles an hour, all the way to 50%. So this is a Gen 5 motor, Gen 5 engine. Gen 5 engines, when you're up to operating temperature, it starts applying the torque converter clutch in first gear. It kind of releases it a little bit to go to second gear. So you're cruising around 25 to 30% throttle. So in first gear, that's 10 RPM slippage. I mean, you are already locked in. It ramps up to like 80, almost to 100 RPM slip in between the shifts, and then it drops down to 12 miles an hour. It drops down to like the 35 or 20 RPM slippage. This is the vehicle speed right here. The third apply, sorry about that. The third apply, it's in 17 RPM, and then the fourth apply, 23 RPM. That's the miles per hour per per speed. Throttle position and the apply. So as you can see, the torque converter clutch applies from one through fourth, and the way I set it up so it will never turn on, as you can see down here in the corner, it says 0 to 318 miles per hour. When you do that, it will never come on. So from first to four, you set it up to 318 miles per hour, and the release, you're going to set it up 1 mile before or 1 mile below, which is 317 miles an hour. So as you can see, the release is always a little bit lower than the apply. And the way you do that, I mean, the reason you do that, you don't want no conflict on the TCM, confusion and stuff like that. So everything that's in fifth and sixth and fifth release and D2 and D1, all of these have been changed with the wheel and tire size. So I did not change the fifth and sixth at all. As we can see, the fifth apply. Once I change that, I mean it says 31 miles an hour, but really, I mean, once you're in sixth gear, it immediately applies. I mean, right after the transmission completes the 4-5 shift. And the six applied as well. As you can see, it said apply at 39 and release at 36. Uh, so once you're up to fifth gear, it applies torque converter clutch. Now let's see what other things are greened out over here. It says max speed, 93 miles an hour. I did not change the limiter, so the limiter is where it's at. It's where it's going to stay. downshift max speed, the wheel and tire size, change that. Manual, I don't know why it did this. I mean, it doesn't have a manual transmission. It doesn't have the CAGs or the reverse lockout. But like I said, the wheel and tire size change, did all these changes. The scheduling, well, this is the shift general. The scheduling, it changed like we mentioned. The upshifts and the downshifts. When you do the wheel and tire size, it'll change that. It does not messes with the pressures. Now, right here on the upshift, on the pattern X and on the pattern Y, I always change it from 1 through 4, and I add a little bit of pressure. Let's open up this table. Like right here, you may want to add like 14 pounds in this column, 21 on these two columns, and maybe 32 pounds on these other two columns, or you can just select the whole table and just add 15 pounds, and you do it from 14 degrees oil temperature all the way up. And I returned it back to stock because I noticed that when I drove it, it was shifting a little bit too firm. And the reason you want to give it a little bit more pressure in between the shifts is because you no longer have the torque converter clutch applying, and you need a little bit more torque, in between the shifts because you don't have no more torque converter clutch applied there. I mean, that's the reason why I add a little bit of pressure from 1 through 4, and on pattern Y the same. This being a truck, pattern Z is not used. Pattern Y is the uh, the button on the shifter, um, the upshifts and downshifts, or the tow haul mode, whatever you want to call that. The shift timing, I did not change no shift timing at all, for the timing. I only did change the torque converter. Now something did I was going to change on the torque management, but right here sometimes the tuners they put this into immediate, the speed control terminate, and I'm the transmission guy. I want my transmission to survive and to live long. For me, is durability. For the tuner guys, for LSX tuners, is performance. And this torque limited, this torque reduction here. See how it is all enabled. The tuners they disable all this, and they put this in the immediate right here, speed ramp, uh, speed control. They put it in immediate. And what they want to do is they don't want to lose any torque in between the shifts. So they want to immediately uh, terminate the torque reduction. So they don't want any torque reduction on the engine. I mean, if it's a track car, I mean, yeah, I can understand that. I mean, but if you're gonna daily drive this thing, and my main concern is for my transmission to last. I mean, that's my greatest issue here. Here are the torque factors. I mean, I'll later show you a performance tune file that I have on a Camaro that I did. Uh, Actually, I built that transmission and I filmed it. It's on my Spanish channel, 6L80 rebuild. Um, I have the tune for that, so I did tune the transmission, the whole transmission. I put a high stall converter on it, and I mean, it turned out pretty good. In a later video, I probably will show you that. But for now, what my concern is to show you guys what we do or what I do for my transmissions to last. And as you saw on the images of the all the metal that's on the pan, the valve is stuck open, uh, the compensator feed valve that is stuck open, uh, having fluid on the front of the applied piston, uh, or the balance piston, the piston that goes on top of the applied piston, it has oil in it because the valve is stuck open and it does not let the clutch apply the way it's supposed to be, and they slip, they slip and burn. All right, guys. Well, here it is. What I do to these transmissions. Right here on edit, you have gear and tire size wizard. The current size is 30.87. I input that. It had 28.1, I think it was 28.1 tire size, and the gear ratio is 342. The gear ratio, I input the same gear ratio here, and I input the new tire size or the current tire size into this little box. And when I hit adjust, it adjusted all the scales. So that's why you see a lot of green on the other transmission tables. Uh, Here on tools, you go to unit conversion, and to get the tire height, because it goes in inches, you input your current tire size here, and it'll give you a tire height in inches, and that's what you input in that box, in this box right here, the tire size in inches. And you put auto scale, so it'll scale your speedometer, it'll scale your shift points, it'll scale everything. All right, guys. Well, like I said, my transmissions, I build them for durability and performance. And we do put a lot of money into these transmissions, and I don't like to see transmissions come back. So there we go. 6L80, 6L90 transmissions built for durability. Thank you for watching.